views and opinions expressed in this podcast by the host or the guest do not necessarily reflect the views of Paranormal Buzz Radio or its sponsors. Use of any material produced by Paranormal Buzz Radio without express written consent is strictly prohibited. For information on everything Paranormal Buzz Radio has to offer, visit our website, paranormalbuzzradio.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Russell. Welcome to the Healing Light Podcast. I am a psychic intuitive who's been reading tarot cards for over 25 years. I'm also Reiki certified. Join me as I read cards, share intuitive messages, promote healing, and much, much more. Hi, everybody. It's Caitlin from the Healing Light Podcast. Thank you for listening in. As always, I thank Paranormal Buzz Radio, who sponsors the podcast. Please go to them for all your paranormal podcast shows, including mine. You can always, as always, you can find me on Facebook under the Healing Light NH, on Instagram, the Healing Light, the YouTube channel, TikTok. Find me there. If you have a show idea or someone you'd like to see as a guest, please email me at thehealinglight1, that's the healing light number 1, at gmail.com. So I am absolutely thrilled to have a guest on my show. His name is Phill Webster, and he wrote a book called Letting Glow, a guide to intuition, spirituality, and living consciously. So I've read the book. I think I've read it twice now, and I highlighted several areas. But Phill is a really cool, interesting guy from the UK. He is a medium, an actor, an author, and he's on social media as well. So I can't wait to get into the conversation, and let's go. So Phill, welcome to the Healing Light Podcast. How are you?
Yeah, thanks, Caitlin. Yeah, I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm good.
Right, excellent. So I was compelled to read your books. I was introduced to you by someone we haven't know in common, but I didn't realize you have some pretty unique titles. I mean, you are an author, medium, and an actor as well. So before we get into the book, which I'm so excited to do, and then I have some other things I want to talk to you about anyway, why don't you tell us just a little bit about yourself and who you are and what you do?
Sure. Yeah. I don't know. So all those things, well, the mediumship came through, I guess what we're going to get into. The acting, I use the word loosely, although I did just get a job on Sunday. I'm going to fly to Iraq to shoot a TV show, which is just completely out of the blue, for 5 weeks. That's somewhere I never thought that I would ever go to, and it's just come like so quickly and out of the blue, and I've got to go there and have a shave, cut my hair. It's like some World War I drama, stuff like that. So yeah, it's kind of these things just with the acting stuff. It just comes. You're like sitting around in your underwear doing nothing, and then the next day you're flying to Iraq apparently. But I got into that after moving back to the UK in 2017. Previous to that, I'd lived abroad for a long time. I ended up in Helsinki in Finland. And I just kind of was doing various jobs. I never really found what I really wanted to do. I was running bars and clubs for a while. Then I ended up becoming a personal trainer to kind of try and get out of that environment of running bars and clubs. And then when I came back to the UK in my 40s, I thought I'll pursue acting. And that sort of came through feeling like there was more of an opportunity here. Like when I was back home, it felt like opportunities opened up. My first time living in London. And I thought, what would I really want to do if I could just like do anything? And it wasn't really like out of a need to perform or anything like that, but it was always like from being obsessed with movies, and it just seemed like the logical thing to the way to get into it, because I don't know how to be a movie director or anything like that. So I was kind of paying the bills with that for a few years, and then COVID happened, and then yeah, towards the end of the pandemic, I lost my mum, which just sent me on a completely different direction. And the book essentially came from that experience.
Oh man, what a biography. Yeah, I was reading about that, and yeah, I love how you talk about your mom and her loss and how you reflect on that and how it impacted your life. Um, Amazing. So I think it's really cool stuff getting into all of that. So I have to laugh because I have the book and I was trying to remember to bookmark certain passages or things that stuck out at me, and then I realized that I have almost the whole book
All
bookmarked with
right.
my little yellow sticky notes.
All right.
Okay, so how do I narrow this down? So the first thing that struck me in was beginning um, is the early signs, and you talk about you learning about astral projection
Hmm.
and lucid dreams, and well as breaking out the Ouija board. I laughed at that because I think I did that as a kid too. I mean, to me,
Yeah.
me and my friend Taryn, when we were kids, best friends, broke out the Ouija board and talked to spirits and all that. Um, so you had your first, I think, astral projection. To me just blows my mind. My fiance can do it. I
Hmm.
don't. I've never have. So that absolutely just blows my mind. That was your experience when you were a young age. So when that happens to you, um, did it feel like, oh my God, this is what is this? This is happening. I've got to tell someone about it. And then you talk about telling people about it, and they're like, yeah, that's nice, and basically don't believe you. So
Yeah.
how did that kind of shape you? What do you think about at a young age you have that happen to you, and it's got to be, well, you tell me, how was it?
Yeah, that one is such a because it was a well, I say a one-off experience, but while you talk about that, it was kind of reminding me that I think I'd got some, and it's weird. I was about, and I don't know if people think like this. I was going to say I don't know if everyone's had this experience, but I'd already kind of got these memories from, and I think I wrote about it in the book, and I've completely forgot to talk about this in other podcasts and stuff, but I got this kind of this vague memory of being like really young and like bouncing down the stairs, right? And just I don't know if it was like a dream memory or if it was an actual memory of perhaps an astral projection experience, because I remember having these memories as a kid, from being even younger as a kid of like bouncing down the stairs, like really like floating down. And that seems sort of kind of natural. And anyway, somewhere in my teens, yeah, I'd come across this book on astral projection, and I thought, well, that sounds kind of cool. I wasn't thinking about it too deeply. I was just thinking, oh, so you can get your ghost body to fly off, and I thought, well, let's try it, and I did, and I just kind of lay down in bed, and I just concentrated really hard on getting up, without actually getting up, and all of a sudden, there's something shifted, and I had this experience, and I remember like rising above the bed, or this feeling as though I were floating above the bed while laying on it with my eyes closed, but I could suddenly see what was going on. And the thing that I wasn't counting on was I also had a perspective from the side of the room, which hadn't been wrote in the book or I hadn't heard anywhere else. And that kind of freaked me out, because I was like, okay, yeah, I was sort of prepared for the let's float out of a body thing. But then I could suddenly see it from the side of the room. I could see myself laying on the bed. I could see myself above the bed. And that was just like too much to comprehend, at that age. It still would be now, to be honest. And it just kind of, I just snapped myself out of it. I was like, all right, well, what's that? I don't know. And then I kind of dismissed the experience for a couple of years, until one day I turned on a TV show, and a guy called in. They had like a psychic on this TV show one morning, and he described that exact experience. And from the point of view that he said he could see himself from the side of the room. And I'd never heard it described like that anywhere other than what the experience was that I had. And that kind of validated it for me. I was like, okay, well, I guess that did really happen, because I feel like when we have these experiences, especially when they're just fleeting or one-off, then we kind of it's easy to dismiss them, because they kind of don't sit in the memory the same way that everyday stuff does, until you start practicing it, perhaps. And then, like you say, your fiance, if he's doing that often, then maybe you can accept that it's a thing. But just as a one-time experience, I kind of doubted it until I heard somebody else describe exactly the same thing. Yeah, but I didn't really know what to do with it. I told people about it at school, and they were like, "Okay, yeah, cool."
Yeah, I don't know, as a kid, for me, when I would, I felt like I talked to two boys in spirit, and to me, they were my boys. So as a kid, I was just like, this is normal. But then you think if you tell someone that they're, yeah, no, we don't talk about that. They just dismiss it as being young and having a fantasy. So
Yeah.
and that just sounds to me like you had that aha moment, like, oh my gosh, this is what's going on. So
Yeah, I think we're more receptive to it when we're kids, right? Like, I mean, I know a lot of people say this, but it does make sense before everything else kind of conditions you to start, accepting, the sort of daily grind of everything and all that. When we're still sort of open to anything being possible, it kind of makes sense to me that those experiences would happen as a kid. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So then we go to do some really cool meditation exercises throughout the book. And I just want to let everyone know that
Thank you.
I'm not a person who, honestly, who in the past has meditated, but I've
Yeah.
been recently doing that practice. So what I love is just the fact that you make it kind of, you break it down so it's simple. I think people think that meditation has to be this hour or 2 hour long process where you shut your mind off completely and you just, it's hard to do. And that's kind of the impression I had of it. But you make it so that they're very simple. You say, this is your level, you're a beginner.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just, I think, so I actually did one today. So it's pretty cool.
Oh,
I
cool.
didn't really.
You did one more than I did today, then. I've been meaning to do it all day, and I just didn't. But yeah.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, we'll get to the one that I did too. So then we go to one of my favorite topics too, which is chapter 3, which is manifestation. Now, when you say in your book, this is crux of the book, meaning that it's a critical component. So when we talk about manifestation, because like you said, it's a word that gets, I've been guilty of it too. I've used that word manifestation in the healing light. I have. I use it because that's the best thing I can think of what to call it.
Yeah.
But I have had visions that I've had that have happened to me. So, but for you, when we talk about manifestation, what makes that one of the critical components of your experience, really?
I mean, I'm still, I write about this stuff, but I'm still very guilty of just getting caught up in my thoughts and just sort of drifting along and then starting to worry about the bills being paid and all that stuff. And before you know it, you're kind of just swept up in all that, and everything seems to be sort of spiraling out of control, perhaps, depending, we have these life situations come up. And I think sort of this whole thing's kind of come together through learning about mediumship, learning about meditation, and then just being able to step back from the thoughts, and not getting caught up in that whole parade of drama that we're just constantly bombarded with thoughts, right? And I just definitely noticed a correlation being able to step back from that and sort of observe yourself as this conscious observer that's watching the thoughts, that doesn't have to get caught up in the thoughts, because, essentially we react to the thoughts, right? And so if we're reacting to something, then obviously we're not those thoughts. And then just relating that to manifestation, I think that when you can sort of separate that and then just be like, okay, I don't need to sort of get it worrying about this or worrying about that. And I feel like when you get into that zone, then it sort of becomes apparent that things do start to flow a lot easier. And I've always struggled with the whole, let's make a mood board and, put a picture of a Lamborghini on there and that's going to show up in the driveway the next day. I don't think it works like that. But I think that what I wrote in the book also is that essentially everything is manifested from our thought, right? Like every single thing that we do essentially comes from something that we've thought, right? Like I'm thinking about this conversation now, even though I'm doing it relatively quickly. But another example that I'll put in the book is, if you were to make a chair, first you would sort of see that chair in your mind's eye, and then you would physically put those things into motion and build the chair, right? As an example. And everything essentially works like that. We first think about it and then we sort of build it in whatever way it is, even if that's a conversation or that's an idea, or even if it's an abstract idea, like let's go on holiday later this year. It's all essentially a thought, right? So if everything works like that, then why not be able to sort of tap into that and utilize it to make things work in our favor? I mean, things do work in our favor. We make things work all day long. It is a bit of an abstract one, and I'm not smart enough to sort of I write better than I talk, I think. but but I think there is something to it, but I don't think it's as simple as, I mean, I think there is something to the whole positive thinking. People are talking about literally like making mood boards or sticking pictures on the fridge and manifesting that. I guess there is something to that, but I think that that it's more to do with like consistency and taking the actions towards those goals as well, not just thinking, all right, I want to marry Angelina Jolie or so, or I don't know, something just random, and hoping it and manifesting it into creation. I think then you've got to actually take those steps as well.
No, you're absolutely right, because I know for me, and when I talk about manifesting, I really feel that I was attuned to Reiki, and you talk about this in the book with the chakras.
Yeah.
I have a I call it my Reiki box. It's a box that was passed down in my fiance's family.
Yeah.
So for me, when I'm manifesting, nobody can see me do my air quotes here. It's infusing my thoughts, as you said, because your thoughts are really powerful, and infusing that with Reiki. And so I will put down, this is what I want to accomplish, and I know in my head, yes, you have to make those steps, Caitlin, to get there. But I write down what I want to happen. I do Reiki for manifestation for other people as well, and I send it out into the world, which isn't really quite effective but I try. But anyway, so I write it in my Reiki box. I mean, I write it down on a piece of paper, use it with Reiki, manifest it, put it in my Reiki box. And I've had so many that I put my thoughts to it, and I have the steps to make it happen. And I've had a lot of things come through. Some things haven't, but that's okay. But
yeah,
I really feel that if you, I know what you're saying. I'm trying to explain how I can relate to it, but yeah, if you have that in your head, your thoughts can speak action. So it's up to you. If you want to manifest bad day, this is going to happen. Then you're going to manifest a bad day, and you're going to manifest a good day. Then I do that every day. So I do my Reiki, and this is what I want to have happen today, and I get a lot accomplished that way. So,
forgive me, I got a cat that's just been fed that's trying to swindle me out of more food. So if you could hear that in the background, that was her trying her luck.
Oh, that's so cute. Hey, I have dogs here, and before you came, they were barking, and I was telling Allison, I said, I need these dogs to please be quiet because I
Yeah,
really want to give,
she's
you know,
like,
I want
I
to.
don't know if this mic picks her up, but yeah, she was making a big song and dance there. But,
That's okay. That's fine. I love cats. I love my dogs, but I'm a cat person. Absolutely. I don't mind saying that. Anyway,
yeah.
um, so we already talked about meditation, uh, about your exercises you put in the book. Um, so the one in chapter 4, the mountain and the mirror. Just want to make sure I got that right.
Yeah, that's the one.
The mountain and the mirror. So that's that's the one I tried. Um, but I would do it again. Um, can I just read a little bit from it? Is that
Yeah,
okay?
sure. Yeah,
Do you
please
mind?
do. Yeah.
All right, I'll just try to make this not too long. Um, so he says, no, I would like you to find a quiet place to sit for 5 or 10 minutes. Do this. Silence any digital distractions. Take this moment for yourself. Once again, record this and play it back if it's convenient. To sit comfortably and close your eyes. Picture in your mind's eye a mountain at the dawn of time. There are valleys and trees, and some neighboring mountains have snow-covered peaks. The universe sent down a little ball of light, glowing orb, in through the top of the mountain, with a direct link back to home, with a mission to simply observe what happens there so the light and the universe can learn. In time, a small village grows nestled among the beautiful landscape of mountains. Now, I want you to imagine you are the light inside the mountain, overlooking a village below. You sat here quietly before the village sprang up, and you have watched it grow before you. Your mountain is solid, strong, movable, and powerful. Everyone in the village knows the mountain's name, and everyone in the village respects the mountain's presence there. They see the mountain as wise and humble, the protector of their homes. They have grown up hearing legends about the mountain, fables. Over time, you begin to know yourself as the mountain because the mountain is your connection to the outside world. Those villagers have made up stories about the mountain, and you can relate to them as your stories. The villagers know their personal history relating to you. What they don't know that you aren't actually the mountainside they all see. You are still the little light quietly sitting inside, undisturbed, unshakable, and all knowing. Your inner core, your true self, simply sits, reflects on what happens outside your walls. You hear the commotion, you hear the laughter, you hear the children play, and you also hear all the stories about you. You find these stories entertaining and nothing more. You are not offended or affected. You feel no malice towards those who speak of you because why would you? They don't know your truth. Some of the stories are flattering, some are not. Either way, it makes no difference to you because you know who you really are at your core. You are the light observing and reflecting like a mirror. And you go on a little bit about how else to run the scenario in your mind. Um, I'll let people read that part because I don't want to give everything away. But so you say also take your time with this meditation. Feel yourself sitting strong and powerful. Begin to take note of your inner observer, one who listens to the meditation itself. The light inside that observes and reflects, flowing, not judging, just watching. When you feel the time is right, bring yourself back to your present space by wiggling your fingers and toes. Take a few deep breaths and open your eyes. So I really love that because I do a lot of my guided meditations on YouTube, and they all are starting to kind of sound the same. Close your eyes, take a deep breath.
Right.
And I've been doing these 5-minute meditations.
Yeah.
But for you, you talk about like being the light and being this, I think, a really all powerful human being whose presence is felt within this little village. So that's how I see it.
Yeah, no, thank you. That's interest. That's an interesting observation about it. For me, that one, I kind of paraphrase. Like later on in the book, I talk about this experience that I had, which I believe was a spiritual awakening, which was I also believe misdiagnosed as psychosis. And I had this real sort of hard time with it, where I thought I was kind of losing my mind, and I found a guy, a therapist, who was kind of recognize what I was going through, and he didn't like other doctors had just tried to sort of give me meds and be like, okay, yeah, go deal with this, take sleeping pills, stuff like that, and nothing touched it. And I was getting kind of desperate with this experience that I was having, and that was essentially I adapted that meditation from something that the therapist gave to me, which was like a very grounding meditation to just kind of reconnect with myself and with the world, and my story, so in terms of the mountain with the village around it, and things taking place and going on, like kind of everybody knows your story, and that really helped ground me and sort of bring me back to where I wanted to be, so that was kind of an adaptation from that. Yeah. And yeah, like you say, the sort of inner light is again sort of just like the way that I was writing it was as consciousness again, that sort of quiet voice that we all have at the back of our mind that sort of cuts through all the crap, in moments of crisis, or your intuition that really sort of knows what's best before that everything comes in and starts overthinking everything. So yeah, I was really just sort of trying to go with that to connect us with our intuition, and then also to physically, ground you in place as well. Yeah, that's where it came from. But yeah, that was interesting to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, it's that's the way I see it.
Yeah.
I really like your visualization because you think you are this insignificant little human being. In this meditation, you become like this really all powerful beam of light. So it's yeah, I really like that one. So I'm gonna go back and do that one again.
No, thank you. Yeah, it's a shame. I'd love to. I need to record them because it's not that convenient, obviously, to be able to read them or try and memorize them. But I've wrote in the book that if you get the chance to sort of record it in your own voice and then play it back to yourself, then as a guided meditation. But I really need to start making some and putting them somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I listened to it. That's a good idea. I didn't think about that I could bring up the book.
Yeah, it's like read it out loud and then just sort of play it back in your own voice. And I think it might even help to hear it in your own voice, to just sort of, yeah.
All right, I'll try that. Boy, I just wouldn't even think about that. All right, so we did talk about my favorite one. So with chapter 6, what we come to is living in the moment. And I just wanted to just share with everybody. Let me find my page. Okay. Talk about time as linear. Time concept wasn't like this time concept was a new idea. The standard accepted view of our lives is that we are born, continue along a life path, and we die. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end, irrespective of how long we may live. Pretty much everything is set up like that. We perceive time moving at a steady pace. It is what it is. It doesn't appear to move any faster. It has to. It doesn't slow down. It moves at a constant speed, a linear course to which we are all aligned and helplessly synchronized. There is no choice. It is happening, and we are in it. So you basically talk about that You move at different speeds within it, but there is only the physical passage of time itself, to which we have no other option than to succumb and be part of it until we don't. And you talk about what happened you about living in the present moment, and you talk about it as a very, you said it hit you like a ton of bricks. So what do you when we talk about time, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, so that was just sort of what I was touching on a moment ago, when I was talking of having this kind of what was potentially misdiagnosed as a psychotic break. I mean, maybe it was a psychotic break, but I woke up one morning and just kind of had this weird shift happen. I was just sort of thinking how you were talking then, or what you were reading from the book, that all we really have is this moment of now. Everything else is just like a memory of the past or an idea about the future. But essentially, it's just now, like all the time. That moment has just gone. Those words have just gone that we just said, where I don't know where they've gone, but we've got this kind of concept of a timeline that they're behind us now somewhere. And this kind of open future. But essentially, all we've got is now, like all the time, right? And it's kind of freaky, it opens up all sorts of possibilities that are way smarter than what I could try and explain. But yeah, I kind of went through this very powerful shift where all of a sudden linear time seemed to fall away, and it was just now, and it was like now, 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 and it just didn't stop. So, normally you can sort of drift off into your thoughts, think, well, I'm going to eat this for dinner, or what did I watch on TV yesterday? All that just sort of fell away, and it was just now constantly, and I couldn't switch it off, and it was terrifying, I have to say, that I thought I was kind of going out of my mind, and I ended up going to some doctors who again started using words like psychosis and just handed me a bunch of meds, which didn't touch it, to be honest. Like, they gave me sleeping pills, which helped, but I would wake up and then it would all just start over again. And these anti-anxiety pills they gave me just didn't do anything. And eventually I found this therapist who ended up giving me that meditation, or a version of that meditation that you read earlier. And that very quickly just brought me back, I say very quickly. It was over the course of a year that I went through this experience. But simply just through sort of shifting away and thinking that I wasn't kind of losing my mind, that this was just kind of opening up to a wider reality. And it sort of brought me back online again, or offline, depending on what way you look at things. But yeah, he was really somebody that said, no. He was like, you're having an awakening. He's kind of, you're like opening up to ultimate reality, because all we really have is now. It's now all the time. It'll never not be now, and that opens up all sorts of crazy stuff when you start going into it, right? If there's only now, then everything that's ever happened is happening right now, or could ever happen is happening right now. And then that starts going into, alternate universes and all this stuff. And, I don't really have the vocabulary to talk about it. But, science talks about it, quantum physics and stuff like that, that it is a subject that is open for debate, but we don't really know how to talk about it. It's crazy.
It is crazy. And I could go down the rabbit hole of time and space and all that. You're what I think they call high vibrational person. If you understand what I'm talking about, is we vibrate at different levels.
Yeah.
And the goal is to vibrate at that higher frequency. And that's how I would see you, as someone who vibrates at that higher level. I'm trying to get there.
I definitely don't all day. It's like having my moments, but yeah.
Well, I mean, we all can't be, like this high vibration 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But you get to that point and where you're at that level. And I don't know if you ever heard about this. I'm doing research in what they call the violet flame, which is the vibration of the seventh, the the violet color, where you're where it's like every fiber of your being is at that level where everything is opening up. And
Right. Yeah.
another word that gets overused a lot, but it's kind of true, is being enlightened. Are we always going to be there? No, we're striving to. Maybe Buddhists are. I don't know, but to me, Buddhists are perfect people. But I get into the whole. I have crystal grids, so it's all about like sacred geometry and all that works, and crystals and vibrational energy. So I could talk about that forever, but and that's another show, I guess. So finally, and just speaking about vibrating higher, and your chapter 9, Rainbow Guide, talk about that glowing orange grid that you saw. So, that you just said like appeared to you. So why don't you just tell people a little bit about that?
Yeah. So again, these things. So just to sort of go a little bit around that. It was seen that something would come up every few years, and in the years between, I would just be going to work, getting on with life, dealing with relationships, all that stuff, not really thinking about these sort of higher things. Something that happened around my mum passing was really the catalyst that kind of made me look back over all these events and think, oh, okay, maybe there's something to this, because it would seem that every few years something would be tapping me on the shoulder. Including the experience that I talked about earlier, and then going back to the astral projection and all that stuff. And then again, just somewhere a few years ago, just before my mum passed, so I guess I was already in my 40s at this point. Again, I woke up one morning. These things always seem to come like in the morning. And I think there's something to that as well. When we're in that kind of like half dream, half awake state, which is also the state that we go into when we go into deep meditation, and I think they call it I'm completely blanking on it now, actually. But anyway, the brain waves are the states that the brain goes into when you're kind of either falling asleep or coming out of sleep. I've completely blanked on the name. But anyway, I was kind of the theta state. So I was in that state, kind of waking up, and it felt like something. And at the time, I didn't know anything about spirit guides. I didn't know anything about chakras. I just hadn't looked into any of this stuff. It wasn't really an interest. And I just woke up one morning, like out of the blue, and the best way I could describe it at the time, and it was the only way I could describe it, I just didn't have words for it. It was as though a rainbow stream of consciousness was going straight into the top of my head, and something smarter than me was asking, like, "Oh, do you still want this?" And it was as though I were being downloaded with information, right? And I was like, I just kind of panicked. I was like, what the hell's going on, And I was just like, no. Whatever this is, just make it stop. And kind of just snapped myself awake, although I was already awake and sort of conscious of the room. And as I did, when I opened my eyes, there was like a glowing grid, just like between me and the ceiling. And I was, I was kind of fully aware of my surroundings at this point. And I just thought, well, that's kind of odd. And just watched it. And it was there, it was like transparent, like a hologram between myself and the ceiling. And I just watched it, and then it slowly dispersed. And I was like, okay, well, what was all that, And I told a couple of friends about it. Or I told my fiance about it. She was away at the time, and she was like, okay, well, you were dreaming, And then my friend was saying, well, did you sleep on your arm funny, and were you kind of like seeing? But I was like, it wasn't anything like that. It was like between me and the ceiling, And at the same time, I felt like I was being downloaded with some sort of information, which I didn't know anything about this stuff. Funnily enough, though, it's like it seems to be really common. I read another book by a lady who actually, funnily enough, lives in the same town as me here, who described exactly the same experience, that she took a nap, and when she woke up from this nap, she felt like her entire book was given to her by her guides. And I believe that's what was going on, something along those lines. but I just kind of went into a panic, and I didn't know what any of that meant. But then again, you mentioned earlier about sacred geometry and all these kind of things, and the chakras, and the crown chakra, which is where we allegedly connect with our guides. Again, I didn't have a clue about that stuff, but when I spoke to somebody later on that did, a medium that I met called Claire Broad, she was like, "Oh yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. Yeah," she's like, "That's your guides were trying to, it sounds like they're really trying to get in touch with you." And and this was years previously, a few years before my mum passed. So again, I had that experience, and I thought, all right, I don't know what to do with that, and I just forgot about it and moved forward. And then as it's come up now, since going down this path of looking into mediumship, looking back on these things, it just seemed like this was almost destiny, to not make it sound too grandiose. Yeah.
No, I absolutely totally get it. I won't make this too long because it's not about me, it's about you. But when my grandmother passed, very close to her, I remember having a dream about her. And in my dream, this many years ago, I could see her, and she had her hair and her glasses and all that.
Yeah.
But many, many years later, moving here, she, and I realize now this is not a dream. She came to me, but the image was like, I knew it was her, but she was like that rainbow crystal color. I found a picture that is similar to it, and like, this is her energy. This is what she is now. She is energy. And I'm realizing now, I think that she's at a point where she's at that high vibration energy, because I just, complete rainbow of colors and floating. Couldn't see her face. It was just soft and peaceful. And she was kind of floating in the air and kind of ethereal and all that.
Yeah.
And I just think now, that's what I think is when you're in that touch with that vibration of that energy.
Well, that sounds lovely. Yeah.
Yeah. It was. I felt amazing, and then I know that she's one of my guides as well. She's with me. So I love the book. Started reading it again, and I'll just keep it with me.
No, thank you. I really appreciate that. It's nice to hear some feedback. Like, it seems to connect with some people really strongly, and I believe that that's who I wrote it for. Other people, I think they're not quite sure what to do with it, because there's quite a lot of things going on in there. So
I was so quick for me. It was it's easy read. You're a great writer anyway, but very easy. And just you incorporate and your mom. And I'm sorry we didn't get to talk more about your mom. But you talk about your mom and your childhood and your life, and you pull it all together. It just flows really well.
Oh, thank you.
I like things that flow, so it did. So I know you said you were writing a sequel, correct?
Yeah, I wrote it like straight away. I finished the first book, and I felt like the first book was essentially sort of my documenting my journey towards mediumship. And by the time I got to that and the end of the book, I felt like I'd learned so much more. I was like, okay, this feels like, beginner. I mean, it was beginner level, that was kind of my journey about learning about it. And hopefully the reader could sort of take that journey as well. But by the end of it, I felt like I'd sort of progressed so far that I had a whole other book. And the next book is kind of less about me and more about the, sort of bigger picture. And it sort of goes more into the esoteric, talks about the history of witchcraft, all sorts of, kind of goes quite out there. And the whole time concept thing as well, it goes well into that. And then, of course, mediumship.
Cool. I can't wait to read it. So I know you'll let me. I haven't.
Yeah. No, it's out. It's out next February. Yeah.
Excellent. So if people want to find you, how do they do that?
Yeah, sure. So the book's available everywhere. Like, I mean, if it's not physically in the store, then you can get it online. It's on Amazon, which is like the sort of go-to place, I guess. And then yeah, me, I've got a website called philwebster.com. That's Phill with two L's. I've been sort of putting some things up there, like I've made a course which is hopefully sort of bridging the gap between books one and two. And then I was also hoping to at some point have like an online circle every couple of weeks where people can join in and we can sort of practice, meditate, and hopefully sort of develop as modern mystics, if I could say that term. And then yeah, I'm on Instagram and I've just started venturing into TikTok, which is a new thing for me. Yeah.
Oh, I with TikTok, I love TikTok, but for me, I'm not really that savvy with doing all the videos and all the fancy
Same.
things that
Yeah.
people do, but it's huge. So I'll look for
Yeah.
you there. I'm on it, but I'm trying to get better at it. So same thing with my YouTube channel, but I'm pretty steady on other social media platforms. So I really want to thank you for agreeing to be on my podcast.
Oh, thank you for having me. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you're most welcome. And we could go on and about your life and beliefs are and whole cosmic energy that's out there. So I will thank you very much for being on the show, and thank you everybody for listening in. And I will wish you a great night from the Caitlin from the Healing Light podcast. Take care, everybody. Bye.